The Academy continues to be active. I think most members know, but let me reiterate that a little bit of history, perhaps. When the organization was founded, which is 83 years ago, it had a bipartisan and non-political organization that included former Secretaries Rusk, Muskie, Kissinger, Ellsworth Bunker, John Kenneth Galbraith was George Kennan was a charter member of the Academy. And it was decided that it would be small and elite. We've tried not to be elitist, which is an attitude of snobbery, but to be elite in terms of service. And members still elect new members, and we always don't elect everybody who's on the ballot, which is sometimes a source of acrimony, but at least means for those of you who've been elected newly that it is a genuine honor. And we are very happy to have a large group of new members this year, and I won't read all the names off, but could I ask all the new members of the Academy just to stand for a moment so we can welcome you to the organization. Thank you. Actually, it was doubly great because I see a couple of people I know that who managed to slip in and I hadn't even seen you. Let me give some thanks. First to Isabel DePrado, the managing director of the Academy, without whom I'm sure nothing would happen. Isabel, yeah. And then Summer Minden has been promoted. She started as an intern, and now we've made her our admin assistant and expanded her job, and she's doing great work. Where are you, Summer? You're hiding here someplace. Oh, there she is. I want to give a special thanks to Eileen Place from the Office of Public Engagement. Where are you, Eileen? She's hiding way in the back. What are you doing way back there? Anyway. I can't tell you how many times she comes to the rescue when members haven't responded in time or things like that. Also, thanks to Ariarai and to Kian Razipur, where are you, who have volunteered to help us out. You're someplace around. Okay. I have one small bit of business. Our bylaws require that new members of the board be ratified by the organization. And we don't want anybody suing us later for not following our regulations. So Tom mentioned several good members of the board have reached the end of their terms. And we have 4 new members that have been selected by the board: Avis Boland, Johnny Young, Johnny Carson, and Tony Wayne. May I have a motion to affirm their membership on the board from somebody? A second. Good. All in favor? Any benighted soul who's opposed? Good. Excellent. Business concluded. I just want to give you a little thumbnail update of a very busy year in the Academy. In the program committee, the chairman passed from Bob Beecroft, for whom I give great thanks for a very active period, to Deborah McCarthy, who has taken over and maintained the activity. We have continued our speaking about important issues and the importance of diplomacy. We have a number of recurring programs that we have continued at the University of Nebraska at Omaha, Texas Tech, the Cisco Forum, our partnership with the Jefferson Foundation at Monticello. This year, we did a special effort to reach out through World Affairs Councils, screening the film America's Diplomats, along with sending one of our distinguished members to talk about diplomacy. And we had programs in Prescott, Arizona with Wendy Chamberlain and myself, Grand Rapids, that I went on Santa Fe, that Susan Ziada did, Milwaukee with P. Romero, Gordon Gray in Fort Thomas, Kentucky, Orlando with Kate Kavanaugh, Dayton, Ohio, that Bob Blake did. I did one in Peoria and one in Louisville, Kentucky with Margaret Scobie. So we talked to a lot of people. In the course of these programs, we also did in each one of them a kind of listening. We asked each organization to do a small roundtable where we could be on the receiving end of a kind of listening tour of getting our own feeling for whether the election actually portrayed any change in how Americans felt about foreign policy and how we ought to organize ourselves in order to speak about this. And it was very educational for us. We are working on a new program for security training for ambassadors and DCMs that I was talking to Bill Todd about. And basically, the idea is we do a lot of training about how to handle crises. We have not done training about how to think about security. And the idea is to put together a number of scenarios where we would bring people in small groups, ambassadors and DCMs, and run them through this. We're going to build the program with an advisory board of people who all live this stuff, working with the McCain Foundation to build this, and with a full plug-in for the department, eventually turn it over to the department for use. I want to give thanks to a group of organizations who have now provided full funding so that we can actually go ahead and do this. Una Chapman Cox Foundation, the Replogle Foundation, Carol Sisko, Garda Federal Services, Delavon Foundation. They have all put money into this so that we can now begin to build this project and give people a real sense of how to think about this stuff. We're starting a new effort to reach out to a broader audience through podcasts. I recognize very few of you are probably in the age group that is listening a lot to podcasts, but they're out there and they vote, and we have to talk to them. Deborah has begun, McCarthy has begun a new program called The General and the Ambassador. She taped the first one with Ryan Crocker and Dave Petraeus, and this is a new way of getting people to listen. And then Pete Romero. Pete, are you here today? I think we lost him. But Pete began on his own a new series of podcasts called America's Diplomats, chatting with former diplomats. It's not an effort to lecture, but to be a kind of chatty interaction. What did you really do in this thing? And some good war stories. And we're looking for now for it is up and running, and we're going to try to move that out to a broader audience. I think it would be a great resource for high schools because there are some good war stories out there. We're looking for new ways to talk to the public about the nature of diplomacy, which many prize but few understand. You know, a lot of people will recognize diplomacy as important, and once they've made that statement, you have used up their knowledge. So we have a new grant, small grant from courtesy of Bob Kimmett, to work with the American Council on Germany on a speaking program, which we're designing. Charlie Rifkin's going to do the first one of those. We're looking for things where we talk about diplomacy in Germany and get all this together. And it turned out that Atlanta produces more films than any other city in the United States. Who knew? Apparently, they went out with a very creative program of tax breaks, and now a lot of films get made in Atlanta. And there's a whole foreign commercial issue with Europe about how you have standards of American films. So we've got diplomacy and films and commerce all wrapped up in a subject. Now all we got to do is think of another one. We're starting sometime next year, courtesy of Bob Beecroft, we'll start an experimental program with a private high school at Hotchkiss. We're looking for ways to expand that. We are working intensively with the Congress on several issues of concern. Lauren Craner and Mike Van Dusen have been heading up our Congressional Relations Committee, and we have been quite active in working the Hill on those issues. We finished the second volume of our project on support for American jobs, on improving commercial diplomacy, began in the last administration under the direction of Chuck Ford, who, as many of you know, was previously Director of Foreign Commercial Service in the Department of Commerce before being an ambassador, and with Sean Donnelly. Carmine Delonzio, who's here today, was with us on that. We had such great reaction from the first reaction from state and commerce officials that they asked us to do a second phase, which we've now done, and now we're trying to figure out how to get Buddy's attention now that everything's changed. Great gratitude there to the Una Chapman Cox Foundation and to BCIU that both contributed. I want to give thanks here, first of all, to the other committee heads in the Academy, Sean Donnelly in membership, who led a really extraordinary effort this year, not only to capture new members, people leaving the service, but to really undertake a much-needed effort to expand our diversity recruitment, pull together a working group to get people to think, who have we missed over the years? You know, for privacy reasons, we don't get a list of people leaving, so it's a little hit and miss who people think of for recommendations for membership. And over the years, we've missed some. And this was very, very useful in bringing in a large group of people who deserve to be here and should have been, in some cases, should have been here somewhat earlier. Bill Roll, who runs the audit committee to make sure that I stay legit. Tom Boyett, who runs the finance committee, to look over my shoulder to make sure I'm doing things properly. And frankly, to all of you, because this is really a kind of public service organization, and we have had enormous support from all the people I mentioned and many others in outreach. One other program I didn't mention was that we do 4 or 5 programs a year with DS, where we send 2 former chiefs of mission out to talk to new ARSO classes before they deploy overseas, to talk about working with the front office. There's a lot of stuff. We try not to load anybody too heavily or very heavily or heavily at all, but we really appreciate the help, and we think we've got a good mission. Of course, there's the kicker. All of this takes money. I'm very grateful for the support we've had. We have a number of friends of the Academy who have stood with us: the Una Chapman Cox Foundation, Delavon, Guard of Federal Services, Johnson Hanson Foundation, and above all, our members.